I posted this on another subreddit, but I didn't really get any helpful advice. Here's hoping you all might have some words to share. I'm not asking for legal advice, and no actual abuse occurred. I apologize for the length, but I want to be as specific and detailed as possible. 3 years ago, I suffered a workplace injury that left me unable to do much, completely unable to continue working, and temporarily using a cane. I was really depressed for a while, feeling useless. About 6 months in, I fell in with a local charitable volunteer group, and they miraculously had work I was perfectly suited to, given my previous career. I was incredibly thankful to finally have something to do. However, at my first job with them, this woman who was also new got high. There was nothing against this in the guidelines. Heck, I had a few beers. But she went beyond what's acceptable. Let's call her Jane. Jane, in her inebriated state, was very loud and rude, and ended up kicking my cane out from under me, seemingly not realizing what she was doing. I didn't want to create drama on literally my first day, so I waited until the next event when she was sober and told Jane I was uncomfortable with what happened. She apologized profusely and promised nothing like that would ever happen again. Things were fine since then, up until last week. You see, I started hosting little get-togethers, every now and again with folks at my home, and at these get-togethers, I would often offer beer or wine. They liked the space so much that we ended up beginning to use my home, like a sometimes headquarters. A few of our planning and other meetings started taking place at my home. I actually really enjoyed this because it made it easier for me, as driving is still pretty hard. We had one of these meetings last week. Now, at these meetings, I do not offer beer or wine, as that would be unprofessional. And even though we're a volunteer organization, I don't believe that having people drinking in my apartment while working is okay. If people ask, I just ask that they refrain until after we're done, and nobody has argued. After the incident that happened on that first day, there is now a rule that at our big jobs, which do not happen at my home for the record, no one is allowed to be under the influence of anything, alcohol or otherwise. Jane came to the meeting the other day, and she sat at the opposite side of my living room from me. My apartment is organized in a very weird way, where the living room takes up the entire width of the unit. So there was a good amount of space between us, filled by literally every single other person in the organization and the stuff they were working on. Since it's my home, my cats are also there, and everyone knows and loves them. Why wouldn't they? They are precious. Anyhow, Jane brought a red wine for herself. I don't know how much she drank, but she put the bottle down on the floor and spilled all over my carpet. I rent, so I would have already been upset if it had been anyone else. However, this was Jane, who I don't feel comfortable being around when she's under the influence of anything, given that she literally kicked my cane out from under me the first day we met while she was hammered. Additionally, she didn't even realize that she had spilled the wine, as she was drunk enough that someone else had to notice that it had happened and let me know. Naturally, I immediately felt very awkward, stuck in a difficult position. I kept my cool as best I could and said that I really hoped that I could clean it out, as I rent and my landlord is a bit of a jerk and would likely charge me for a full carpet replacement if I couldn't get the stain out. I did not raise my voice, nor did I voice any of my concerns regarding my boundaries. It occurred to me in that moment that my cats could have had some of the alcohol, as I didn't know when it had spilled, and they love licking things off of the floor. I immediately sat down, and had one of those silent panic attacks that feels like you're dying and can't breathe. I was diagnosed with OCD after my accident, but this was my first attack in almost a year. The secretary of the organization, 39-year-old male, noticed and immediately came over to my side. However, Jane began to wail. She was hysterically crying, calling herself such a moron, such an idiot, and being extremely dramatic as to how she couldn't pay for any damages. She felt so stupid, etc., etc., etc. Literally every single other person in the room, aside from the secretary, went over to her and began assuring her that it wasn't a big deal, that she wasn't stupid and that it was all okay. At no point did she actually apologize or do any cleaning. Soon after, everybody left, and the secretary helped me clean it up. We were able to get it so that the stain is very minimal, and I'm hoping that repeated shampooings and vacuuming get rid of it over time, before my landlord stops in for a surprise visit again. Well, we were cleaning. The secretary assured me that I did nothing wrong, and that he really hated Jane and hated seeing how she treated others, and how she acted so narcissistic. His words, not mine. I wanted to say something to the leadership above the secretary, but the secretary asked me to take the evening to have a good night's rest and sleep on it before saying or doing anything. I took his advice and I wrote something up that night but didn't send it. In the morning, I felt a lot better and just resolved to more firmly assert my boundaries anytime anyone comes over to my home, and especially whenever I need to use my cane, as I still sometimes have to pull it out on bad days. Now, I've been seeing this other woman, 31-year-old female. For about 7 years, she has nothing to do with the volunteer work. However, she is absolutely addicted to social media and sent me a text about midday, asking me what the hell Jane was talking about. I went on Jane's Twitter and I saw that she had tweeted a long string. In this string, she claimed that at the meeting, she had suffered a terrible panic attack because she was triggered by her past trauma of her ex, who was hurtful and berated her and called her stupid for every little mistake that she made. She specifically noted details that would make it easy to identify that she was talking about the incident that occurred the previous night. And that makes it easy to identify that she's talking about me, that I triggered her. My gut reaction was to quit, immediately distance myself, and hire a lawyer to do whatever is necessary to get that post removed, and to make sure that I never have contact with Jane ever again. However, I then remembered that I don't have money, and I have obligations with this group that I can't not do, without completely derailing their plans, which benefit the community in a great way, for the next 6 months. I reached out to the secretary, and they were a bit cagey, which was odd. Turns out they got in contact with the leadership for me, and the leadership asked me to give them some information. I gave them strictly the facts of what had happened and detailed my boundaries and how they were violated, and when they asked what I recommended, I told them that I had no idea how to fix the damage she has done by doing this, as the tweet already has a bunch of retweets and likes, and I'm sure it's been screenshotted and posted elsewhere already. But they should definitely start thinking up some policies to prevent stuff like this from happening in the future. I haven't heard anything back yet. I'm posting this tonight because I just had another job with them that wasn't at my home. And I showed up as late as possible and left as early as possible and tried not to interact with anyone if I didn't have to. It was miserable. And for the first time, I didn't have fun at all. I just felt used. I realized that I feel used, trapped, disrespected, a lot of other negative things that are not the sorts of things you want to feel when you're already down. You know, IDK. So I'm asking, what should I do? This has already negatively affected my relationship with my girlfriend. Because even though we've been together for 7 years, she finds it hard to believe that this woman who I've worked closely with for 3 years would lie about something like this, or rather stretch the truth. She's coming around as she knows me and knows what happened on that first day, and knows that Jane has a pattern of posting things in a very dramatic way to make herself the center of attention, especially when she's done something wrong. But that doesn't change the fact that someone who loves me and sees me as a life partner has doubts about me because of this. Now, so what does that mean for everyone who doesn't love me as much as she does? I'm worried about how this will affect my reputation, as I'm just beginning to get to the point where I can start to think about working again in my chosen field. My field often requires really intensive background checks, and it would be incredibly easy for someone to realize this is about me, and that could destroy my entire career that I worked so hard on, that I've been working on recovering for a very long time now. What do I do about this organization, the obligations I have coming up, and Jane? I'm thinking of fulfilling my obligations and then bowing out, but that forces me to work closely beside her for 2 jobs in that time, and I'm afraid of her escalating. I thought these people were my friends, but the majority of them have already liked or retweeted her thread. And I don't know if that means they agree with her that I'm some kind of aggressor, but it either means that or that they don't care about how it will affect my reputation. So either way, I feel like I've lost my entire friend group in one fell swoop. I'm so lost, you guys. These people pulled me out of a deep funk, and they have been nothing but kind to me. I've only ever had the one issue with Jane, but this, I don't know what to do. After writing this up, I received an email from the leadership that they were going to stop doing things at my apartment, which I had already told them I was no longer comfortable with them coming over here. So that wasn't really their decision, and that should solve everything. They didn't even address the Twitter thread. It just felt like they were handling me. What do I do? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Where do you get the impression Jane and I are close? If you're talking about the full group, I don't know what you want from me. My previous career required that I lived, slept, ate, and breathed my work with my colleagues, and leaving that setting was immensely jarring. After I had to leave, I had no friends outside, so my only friends come from this group, and because of my injury, I can't get out easily to make other friends. Like I said, driving is really difficult still. Comment 2. Leave the organization. Tell them the reason you're leaving is that you can't be involved in anything to which Jane is connected because of her egregious behavior. They managed before you joined. They'll manage without you. Or they'll ask her to leave if it'll get you to stay. That's the only way any of this is going to change. Otherwise, stuff like this is going to keep happening, no matter what you do in an effort to work around her. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around for more of my saga. So, after the whole wine spill fiasco, things just spiraled. I thought it couldn't get worse, but oh, it did. The next day, I got a call from my landlord. Apparently, someone tipped him off about the party at my place. He came over, saw the faint stain on the carpet, and went ballistic. Said I had violated the lease agreement. No gatherings allowed. I tried to explain, but he wasn't having any of it. He threatened to evict me if I didn't pay for the carpet replacement. That's when I knew I was in deep trouble. I was already on thin ice with my finances, and this could be the thing that broke me. I couldn't afford a new carpet, let alone a lawyer to fight Jane's slander. I felt cornered, like everything I had worked for was slipping through my fingers because of one person's recklessness and lies. But then, something unexpected happened. The secretary, let's call him Mark, came to me with a plan. He had overheard Jane bragging about how she had manipulated everyone into feeling sorry for her. Mark was fed up with her antics and suggested we gather evidence of her behavior to present to the leadership. He believed that if we could show a pattern of her causing trouble, they'd have to take action. We spent the next couple of days digging. We found old social media posts of hers stretching back years, where she'd pulled similar stunts, playing the victim while subtly ruining other people's reputations. We even found a few people from her past who were willing to speak out about her behavior. With our evidence in hand, we approached the leadership. They were shocked. They had no idea about Jane's history. They promised to handle it, but I was skeptical. I'd seen how they'd brushed off the Twitter incident. Meanwhile, my relationship with my girlfriend was on the rocks. She was hurt that I hadn't confided in her about the whole mess. It took a long, hard conversation, but we managed to patch things up. She agreed to stand by me no matter what. Then, the day of reckoning came. The leadership called a meeting with Jane, Mark, and me. They confronted her with the evidence. Jane tried to deny it, but it was all there in black and white. The leadership gave her an ultimatum: apologize publicly and step down from her position, or be expelled from the group. Jane chose to leave. She stormed out, but not before shooting me a look that could unalive. I felt a mix of relief and dread. I knew this wasn't over. Sure enough, the next day, Jane's friends started a smear campaign against me. They claimed I had bullied her out of the group. My social media was flooded with hate messages. It was like a nightmare. But then, the tide turned. People from Jane's past started coming forward, sharing their own stories of how she had wronged them. The public opinion shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't the villain anymore. I was the guy who stood up to the real bully. The leadership issued a public statement, apologizing for not acting sooner and commending Mark and me for our courage. They also offered to cover the cost of the carpet cleaning, acknowledging that it was the least they could do after everything that had happened. As for the landlord, he backed down when he realized the public was on my side. He even offered me a discount on next month's rent as a gesture of goodwill. It was a bittersweet victory. I had cleared my name, but at what cost? I had lost friends, my peace of mind, and nearly my home. Still, I couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. I had stood up for myself, and in the end, the truth had come out. Now, I'm just trying to move on. I'm focusing on my recovery, my relationship, and slowly rebuilding my life. It's not going to be easy, but I'm determined to come out of this stronger. Thanks for reading. My friend disrespects another and ruins our party. So when he confesses his love for her, I make sure he faces the music and pays for the pregnancy test. I, 23-year-old male, met my friend Priya, 23-year-old female, 5 years ago in the first year of college, and we became very close. After college, she moved all the way from Boston to California for a great career opportunity. Since then, we have kept in touch, but haven't seen each other in person in almost a year. This past week, Priya came to stay with me, arriving last Sunday night and leaving this morning. We planned to have a party last night, with 3 of our other friends attending, all of whom I also met 5 years ago. One friend, 23-year-old female, canceled on us last minute, which was very disappointing for Priya. Our friend Jack, 23-year-old male, arrived on time as planned at 7. Our other friend Clarence, 23-year-old male, who I haven't seen in person since college either, said the traffic was terrible on his drive from NYC and finally got there around 8. I let Clarence in the door and I could see that he was looking at Priya a little funny. He was sneaking glances at her chest, but also looking disturbed. He asked if she was seeing anyone since her breakup last month. She said she was talking to a few guys. He asked her what she liked to wear on first dates and whether she liked to show a lot up front. Eventually, Clarence asked her to dance with him, and she got up and started dancing with him. Within a couple of minutes, he said, "I got something for you, Priya. Let me get it from my car." He went outside and drove off. A few minutes later, he sent me a long text message explaining why he left, bashing Priya. His list of complaints included her haircut, which he said was short and ugly. He said she had gained a shocking amount of weight. He said her outfit was a disgrace because she was wearing a tiny cheerleader skirt, with nothing underneath and showing too much cleavage. I showed Priya and Jack the text, and they were furious. The rest of the party was fun with the 3 of us. At 11, I went to bed while Priya went to go see Jack's new place. I dropped Priya off at the airport today. She told me she had a great time with me and Jack, but she never wanted to speak to Clarence again, even though she would consider returning to Boston if she were ever laid off. Afterwards, I decided to contact Clarence. I asked if he was feeling all right the night before. He told me that he was greatly disappointed by Priya, and that she was not the classy woman he remembered from college. I told him I spent the week with her, and she was exactly the person I remembered, and he scoffed at me. My opinion on Clarence has become a lot worse because of last night. I had maintained regular contact with him, but I'm now wondering if I should continue. He was good friends with me and Priya in college, and I have never seen him behave like this before. Do I cut contact with him once and for all? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. If you feel comfortable, you could have a candid conversation with Clarence about his behavior and its impact. Express your disappointment and concern regarding his disrespectful comments towards Priya. Give him the opportunity to apologize and explain his actions, but also make it clear that such behavior is unacceptable. Comment 2. It's understandable that you're feeling conflicted about your friendship with Clarence, given his inappropriate behavior and disrespectful comments towards Priya. It's clear that his behavior was completely out of line and unacceptable. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, after I dropped Priya off at the airport, things took a turn for the worse. I thought Clarence's exit from the party was the end of it, but boy, was I wrong. The next day, I got a call from Jack. He was in a panic. Turns out, Priya didn't just go to see his new place, they ended up spending the night together. And now, Priya was freaking out because she thought she might be pregnant. Jack was not ready to be a dad, and Priya was scared about what this would mean for her career. They both decided to keep it quiet until they knew for sure. But Jack needed someone to talk to, and that someone was me. I was shocked. Priya and Jack had always been close, but I never saw this coming. It felt like a betrayal. I mean, She had just broken up with her boyfriend last month. And now this? I didn't know what to think. I was angry at them both, but I also felt sorry for them. They were my friends after all. While I was still trying to process this, Clarence called me. He apologized for his behavior at the party and wanted to make amends. He said he was going through some personal issues and took it out on Priya, which was wrong. He asked if we could meet up and talk things through. I agreed, still feeling resentful, but curious about what was going on with him. When we met, Clarence dropped another news. He confessed that he had been in love with Priya since college, but never had the courage to tell her. Seeing her at the party, looking so different from what he remembered, made him realize she had moved on and it had crushed him. He said he acted out because he was hurt and jealous. I was taken aback. This was a side of Clarence I had never seen before. I didn't know what to do with all this information. My head was spinning. I had to sit down and think. I had always believed in loyalty and honesty among friends, and here I was, in the middle of lies and secrets. The following day, Priya called me. She was crying. The pregnancy test was positive. She didn't know what to do and felt like her life was falling apart. She was afraid of losing her job, her independence, everything she had worked so hard for. And she was ashamed of what had happened with Jack. I felt my anger towards Clarence start to fade. He was just a guy who had his heart broken. And Priya, she was my friend who needed support, not judgment. I told her that whatever she decided to do, I would be there for her. It was a tough situation, but abandoning her was not an option. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how everything had changed in just 3 days. I thought about Clarence and his unrequited love, about Priya and the mess she was in, and about Jack, who was just as lost as the rest of us. In the end, I decided to forgive Clarence. It wasn't easy, and it made me look weak, maybe even desperate. But holding on to resentment wasn't going to help anyone. We all make mistakes, and we all deserve a chance to make things right. So, that's where we are now. A group of friends, each with our own flaws and secrets, trying to figure out how to move forward. It's not going to be easy, but I guess that's just how life goes sometimes. Thanks for reading. My boyfriend ignores my health issues and feeds me trigger foods. So I serve him a dish of justice at his family dinner. We've been together for 1.5 years. After a couple responses on another post, I realize we have to talk about it, looking for advice. He does not pay enough attention to things that don't directly impact him. But this is probably the most physically painful time for me. I've recently learned that a specific dye sets me off terribly. I'd had issues with dyes making me sick before, but it only clicked a couple weeks ago. I also tend to eat very healthy, and I only ever drink water with one specific flavor packet, so I don't make random dietary decisions often. My boyfriend was trying to encourage me to try a new flavor he liked, and I agreed. I became violently ill after I drank it for a couple of days, literally throwing up red and shit in my pants. MAO. I survived. We both acknowledged that was not good, and I tried to recover. I've been good from that, but got my period, which is aggressive, painful, and by night it's hard to stand. Last night, my boyfriend volunteered to go downstairs and refill my water bottle. When I took a sip, I told him it wasn't my normal one, and he must have put the wrong one in, which is hard because I have a huge box of them right at the front, so you'd have to go around them to get anything else. He got annoyed, told me it explicitly was not the one that made me sick, and that it would be okay. I was sick and not sturdy enough to get out of bed, so I just dealt with it even though the taste was way stronger than I wanted. Sure enough, this morning I'm throwing up and struggling again. I go down to look in the trash, and the only thing in it is from the specific pack that made me sick. My boyfriend was having a shitty morning because he didn't want to go to work, and I know me saying anything is going to make him upset and probably make his day worse. Still, if he had this experience, I would definitely be overly cautious to not replicate it. The water he gave me was literally what he said it wasn't, and now I get to be more sick than I would have been. What can I even say about this? It's not unlikely that he will take anything as me attacking him. I would really like a, "I'm so sorry," and I will be more careful in the future. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I would really like I'm so sorry, and I will be more careful in the future. I mean, he already made the promise to avoid that drink given your reaction. That he chose to use it again and then straight up lied to your face about it, went so far as making you feel bad for even bringing it up. The worry to me is that his promising to be more careful in the future seems a kind of hollow promise. Further, don't settle for that. He made a choice based on selfishness or laziness or both that put you in profound physical distress in a situation where he ought to be looking out for you. You need an explanation as to why he chose to lie to you, why he got upset despite clearly being wrong. But I worry he will deny it still to avoid that. I worry that he will try to gaslight you about it. I worry that you already know that is a potential, that you already know he will get defensive and aggressive. So the question becomes, why you settle for a partner like him? You deserve more than that. Comment 2. You're seriously ill, in part because of his error, and we'll hope it's an error and not sadism. His feelings are not a priority compared to your actual health. Tell him his error made you sick. If he doesn't apologize in favor of feeling attacked, you'll know he does not actually care about your health or suffering. Now, for the update. Thank you for sticking around for this update. So, things have been pretty rough lately. Remember how I mentioned my boyfriend doesn't pay much attention to things that don't directly impact him? Well, it's been getting worse. Just last week, I had a major presentation at work, and I was stressing out. I needed his support, but he was too caught up in his own stuff. He forgot all about my big day, didn't even wish me luck. It hurt, but that's not even the half of it. My health issues have been flaring up again. I've been avoiding anything that could trigger my allergies, especially after the last incident with the drink mix-up. I've been super careful, sticking to my safe foods and all. But then, out of nowhere, I started feeling sick again. I couldn't figure out why, until I found a wrapper from a snack he knows I can't have. It was in our kitchen trash, hidden under some papers. I confronted him about it, and he just shrugged it off, saying he forgot it was something I couldn't eat. How do you just forget something like that? And then there's the whole water bottle situation. After the last time, I thought he'd be more careful. But no, he gave me the wrong flavor again. I was in so much pain, and he acted like it was no big deal. I ended up being sick all over again. It's like, he doesn't get how serious this is for me. I've been talking to my friend, the one who's always had my back. She's been telling me that maybe he's not the right guy for me. That maybe I need someone who's going to pay attention to the important stuff. Someone who cares about my well-being. It's been a lot to think about, but here's where it gets really messed up. Yesterday, we were at his sister's birthday party. I was still feeling under the weather, but I didn't want to miss it. I was picking at my food, trying to be careful, when his mom noticed. She asked if I was okay, and I didn't want to make a scene, so I just said I wasn't very hungry. But then she started talking about how I should try this new dish she made. I asked what was in it, and she listed off the ingredients, including one of the dyes I'm allergic to. My boyfriend was right there, and he didn't say a word. He knows I can't have that dye. It's like he completely forgot about my allergy. I had to explain to his mom why I couldn't eat it, and it was so embarrassing. She felt terrible, but it wasn't her fault. It was his for not remembering something so important about me. I've been feeling so alone in this relationship. It's like I'm the only one who's trying to make it work. And I'm starting to wonder if it's even worth it. I need someone who's going to be there for me, who's going to remember the little things that matter. I'm tired of feeling like I'm not a priority, so I did something I never thought I'd do. I sat him down and told him how I've been feeling. I laid it all out, how his actions or lack thereof have been affecting me. I expect him to get defensive to start an argument. But instead, he just looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something click. He apologized, like really apologized. He said he didn't realize how much his inattention was hurting me. He promised to do better, to be more aware of my needs. I want to believe him, I really do. But I guess only time will tell if he can actually change. For now, I'm just taking it one day at a time, hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. Thank you for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.